Happy Friday, everybody. Welcome to another episode of China Update, where we discuss leading political, economic, and geostrategic analysis on the world's #2 economy. My name is Tony. We have another big episode today. There was so much that there is going to be another extra episode tomorrow on Saturday as well. So we're on top of what has been incredibly significant developments from the last couple of days. Now, with that said, let's jump in. And first up, it finally happened. China's final remaining too big to fail property developer has been abandoned by its government backer. The final domino of China's mega developers finally falls. The shock arrived in recent days, hidden inside what initially looked like a routine corporate disclosure. China Vanke Co., long seen as the major survivor of the country's brutal property downturn, announced a $3.1 billion loan agreement with its state-owned shareholder, Shenzhen Metro Group. But buried in the filing was a decisive shift. Shenzhen Metro would cap any further financial support and demanded collateral for all existing loans, including the $2.8 billion already drawn. For investors, the message was unmistakable. After nearly 2 years of unwavering backing, patience from Vanke's most powerful supporter was wearing thin. The consequences were swift and severe. Vanke's dollar bonds collapsed, losing around 70% of their value and shrinking to almost 20 cents on the dollar. State-owned banks moved to limit exposure, while regulators quietly prepared to manage the fallout rather than orchestrate a rescue. What is now unfolding could become one of the largest corporate restructurings in China's history. Vanke has more than $50 billion in outstanding debt, including over $7 billion held overseas. Once viewed as a model developer, disciplined, well-connected, and too important to fail, the company now faces a stark reassessment of risk across China's financial system. That sense of inevitability hardened after China International Capital Corp reviewed Vanke's finances in the third quarter and concluded that the developer was insolvent. By late November, regulators had privately signaled that the state would not step in to save the firm. Since then, Vanke has delayed repayment on domestic bonds, skipped a call option on another, failed to secure new bank loans, and pledged more assets as collateral. S&P Global Ratings has downgraded the company twice, leaving it just 3 notches above default. The loss of potential cover has been as damaging as the financial strain. Shenzhen Metro chairman Xin Jie, once Vanke's most vocal champion and briefly its chairman, resigned in October amid market rumors of official scrutiny. His departure stripped Vanke of a crucial advocate just as negotiations with lenders reached a critical stage. Vanke's immediate hope now lies in buying time. Investors are voting on whether to grant a 1-year extension on a 2 billion yuan bond due this month, a likely first step in a long series of piecemeal negotiations. A comprehensive restructuring could drag on for years and will test China's already strained financial system. Indeed, the broader implications extend well beyond a single company. Roughly 45% of Vanke's debt is unsecured, leaving banks and bondholders exposed to the tune of tens of billions of dollars. At a time when margins are at record lows, non-profitability at record highs, and assets, especially in housing, have lost trillions of dollars in value. More importantly, a disorderly restructuring risks further eroding home buyer confidence in a sector already struggling with excess supply and weak demand. China has contained property defaults before, notably after Evergrande's collapse in 2021. But Vanke's troubles strike at a deeper assumption that even China's so-called best and healthy developers are no longer shielded. The housing collapse wasn't caused by a few bad apples. The entire system was rotten. The property market's still searching for stability. That realization may prove the most damaging of all. Next up, the Trump administration is moving to formalize a new economic security bloc aimed squarely at countering China's dominance in critical minerals, advanced manufacturing, and emerging technologies, marking a further escalation in the global competition over supply chains and industrial power. On Friday, the United States is expected to sign the so-called Pax Silica Declaration, alongside Singapore, Australia, Japan, South Korea, and Israel. According to US-based Politico, the declaration is designed to address deficits in access to critical minerals and advanced technologies by coordinating investment, research, and infrastructure development among like-minded partners. The initiative explicitly seeks to challenge China's massive state-backed investments across the minerals, technology, and logistics sectors. Under-Secretary of State for Economic Affairs Jacob Hellborg was unusually blunt about the declaration's strategic intent. By aligning economic security policies, Hellborg said participating countries could, quote, basically block China's Belt and Road Initiative, end quote, by denying Beijing's opportunities to acquire ports, highways, and logistics corridors that underpin its export-led growth model. The remarks are unlikely to be well received in Beijing, which has long viewed the Belt and Road as a cornerstone of its global economic strategy. The Pax Silica Declaration lays the groundwork for cooperation on joint research and development, advanced manufacturing, mineral refining, and infrastructure. US officials frame it as a response to China's near-monopoly in rare earths and its leverage over supply chains critical to both civilian industries and military applications. Beijing has increasingly used export restrictions on rare earths and related materials as a regulatory tool against US tariffs, reinforcing Washington's sense of urgency. Beyond minerals, the initiative reflects growing US concern over China's rapid advances in artificial intelligence and quantum computing. Hellborg described Pax Silica as an, quote, industrial policy for an economic security coalition, end quote, arguing that there is currently no forum where countries can coordinate on competing with China in the AI economy. He likened the grouping's ambition to that of the G7 during the industrial age, emphasizing cooperation on export controls, investment screening, and protection of key supply chain choke points. The declaration's signing will coincide with a one-day Pax Silica summit, bringing together officials from the European Union, Canada, the Netherlands, and the United Arab Emirates, an early signal that Washington hopes to expand the coalition beyond its initial members. At the same time, pressure on China is intensifying from other directions. Mexico's Senate this week approved sweeping new tariffs of between 5 and 50% on more than 1,400 products from Asian countries without trade agreements, with Chinese goods among the hardest hit. While the president has denied that the move targets China specifically, the policy closely aligns with the US efforts to curb Chinese exports and transshipments through third countries, in this case Mexico. Beijing has criticized the Mexican measures as protectionist and warned it would monitor their implementation closely. Taken together, these moves underscore a widening alignment among US partners and neighbors. Economic security, supply chains, and technology competition with China are increasingly shaping global trade policy. If you want to continue to be on top of all developments China-related, including the emergence of this new Cold War with China and the US and her allies, consider subscribing to China Update, hit the bell notification icon, and you will be. If you're getting some value from today's episode, it's a huge help if you can just hit the like button, and Patreon and Buy Me a Coffee links are in the description for those who want to go the extra mile and help me keep China Update financially sustainable. And finally for today, speaking of the technology aspect of the wider competition, a remarkable report published on Wednesday from US-based The Information suggests that Chinese AI startup DeepSeek is training its next model on several thousand Nvidia Blackwell GPUs, despite the chips being explicitly banned from export to China under US export controls. If accurate, the revelation marks one of the most significant breaches yet of Washington's semiconductor restrictions and a dramatic twist in the global race to build frontier AI systems. According to 6 people familiar with the operations, the chips arrive in China through an elaborate smuggling pipeline that has gained traction over the past 2 years. The scheme begins with intermediaries lining up non-Chinese data center companies, often in Southeast Asia, to legally purchase Nvidia hardware through authorized distributors. Once the servers are installed abroad, Nvidia and partners such as Dell and Supermicro inspect the facilities to ensure compliance with export rules. Only then does the sleight of hand begin. Dealers allegedly dismantle the servers, ship the components into China under false customs declarations, and reassemble them inside domestic data centers already leased to Chinese AI firms. The process is slow and batch-based, but its opacity ensures no paperwork connects Nvidia hardware to the ultimate Chinese end user. If true, the operation would directly contradict US officials' assertions about the impracticality of of smuggling high-end GPUs. In June, US AI czar David Sachs dismissed the risk outright. Quote, "These are server racks 8 feet tall and weighing 2 tons, end quote, he said, suggesting covert transport was unrealistic. Nvidia denies awareness of any such phantom data centers, calling the scenario, quote, far-fetched, end quote. Indeed, today, Nvidia dismissed the information report outright, telling US-based CNBC, quote, "We haven't seen any substantiation or received tips on phantom data centers constructed to deceive us and our original equipment manufacturer partners, then deconstructed, smuggling, and reconstructed somewhere else," end quote. Yet circumstantial evidence is mounting. Taiwan's exports of AI chips to Indonesia, a favored waypoint in smuggling routes, it's alleged, have surged 26,900% year-on-year, topping $400 million in November alone. From August to November, outbound shipments exceeded $1.2 billion, an increase analysts believe corresponds almost entirely to diversion into China, though this is just an hypothesis and no evidence has yet been produced. If DeepSeek has indeed secured thousands of Blackwells, the implications could be profound. It would signal the US export controls, designed to slow China's AI progress, are far leakier and less enforceable than Washington claims. It would also underscore the lengths to which Chinese firms will go to maintain GPU parity as they scale frontier models. And strategically, it would show that the AI race is no longer just about compute, but about global supply chain opacity, enforcement gaps, and the limits of unilateral technological containment. Okay, that is today's episode of China Update. Thank you so much everybody for watching. Have a good Friday. Have a restful weekend. It is highly likely that there will be a extra episode over the weekend. So I hope to see you for another episode of China Update tomorrow.